In the UK, we have a Minister for Women and a Women and Equality Unit. Every day the interests and needs of women receive detailed attention with the weight of the government, the media and taxpayers' money behind it. The Equal Opportunities Commission would more appropriately be called the Female Opportunities Commission. It near single-mindedly justifies its existence by searching for all kinds of things that might conceivably oppress women, yet they have no interest whatsoever in the many more obvious ways in which men are oppressed.
What you had there was a commission set up which was designed, although it said it was equality for all, it was designed really to enable women to achieve equality. I had a person say to me, a solicitor said to me about 3 or 4 years ago that women can really organise themselves well, and I said no, they're not any more better organised than men. I said quite simply, when you've got a commission there which is set up for the benefit of women's equality, in inverted commas, whereby anything that a woman screams about, she can call upon a whole phalanx of lawyers from the EOC who will push their case, there's no great difficulty in achieving that. So what you've had from the 70s, and as you used to see it in the newspapers sort of year after year, another male bastion crumbles, and you get this silly headline news would come out that women had achieved this and had achieved that. Quite simply, you had a commission that was there exclusively at their use to push for whatever they wanted to achieve.
Take this example of the EOC's work. This is typical of the female-centric view we have of the world. If anything is so much as inconvenient for women, it's something done to them by men. Transport is designed for workers who commute to their jobs. It's not designed for men, and it's idiotic to say that it is. If the situation was reversed, the EOC would be investigating why women have to go to work every day in stuffy, uncomfortable trains in order to support men who get to stay at home with a much higher quality of life. This is simple economics, not the oppression of women. This same issue affects old people, the unemployed, shift workers, the disabled, people that work at home, children. A whole raft of people find it inconvenient that there are fewer services outside of rush hour. But the EOC calls it an issue that affects women, and only women. Well, the EOC should be investigating why it is that women have so much free time to be burdened with, and where exactly they get all the money they need to pay for travel. Could it be from the commuters, mostly men, who are working 5 days a week to support them? Can you even believe that such an investigation would take place? Is this really how such an organisation chooses to spend its time and taxpayers' money? The real investigation here should be why are men so disproportionately required to work that the transport system seems almost designed exclusively for them? Why have men been required to work throughout history and to the present day, and not women? Why don't they investigate the huge disparity in health spending between men and women?
I have cancer.
I've got breast cancer.
My wife died of cancer.
I survived breast cancer.
Please give £2 a month to Cancer Research UK, so even more women can survive breast cancer.
One figure that in a recent year that came up was that on the promotion of prostate cancer, that £47,000 was spent, whereas if we look at the comparable figure for the try and prevent breast cancer, it was 4.4 million, which is quite a big difference.
100 times as much, and now the difference in spending is increasing. Cancer Research alone spent £45 million on breast cancer in 2008. If men had the same level of healthcare as women, how many lives could be saved? Is it as simple as that?
Well, I think that I think we could maybe add a couple of years to men's health if they took more care, the same care as women, at least 2 years, and maybe 3 years in the longer term.
Why are we not striving for those few extra years for men? For sons, brothers, fathers, grandfathers and friends? How about these headlines? In the present day in the UK, men must work to age 65 to qualify for the full state pension. Women need only work to age 60. And women live for longer than men. So while women retire at 60 and die at 81, giving them 21 years of life after work, men retire at 65 and die at 76, giving them only 11 years of retirement. So whilst men are forced to work themselves near to death, women enjoy a long retirement. And what's our main concern about this situation? Instead of investigating the bogus pay gap, how about looking into the real spending gap between men and women? Men earn more, but women spend more in almost every consumer category.
Can I cash this now? If you feel it's the right thing to do, my sweet.
Oh, I do, Gordon, I do.
Going where?
Brussels, can't stop. Got to get to the bank before the shop's shut.
Women have more disposable income than men despite earning less. This is because women have access to men's money as well as their own. What's hers is hers, and what's her husband's is hers, even on divorce. Men must work much harder than women to achieve a good standard of living. A woman can just shack up with a man who'll pay her way. Matt Damon married a bartender. What do you think her disposable income is now, compared with what it was? The activities of the government's Women Inequality Unit, the EHRC, and the Minister for Women actively discriminate against men. Never in history have men had a minister whose sole purpose was to look after men's unique needs and requirements.
So, for example, when you have a politician who is typically standing before you arguing for some particular policy, he's usually arguing on behalf of his party, his political party, or perhaps on behalf of his country. But I'll bet you've never seen a politician in your life standing up and arguing for the cause of men. I've never seen it. I've seen them talking about women, but the psychology of men, if you like, has been hidden.
The very idea of supporting men's rights is ridiculed.
The UK Independence Party is struggling to get in touch with its feminine side after one of its new MEPs was appointed to the European Parliament's Women's Rights Committee. And he went on to say, I'm going to promote men's rights. No self-respecting small businessman with a brain in the right place would ever employ a lady of childbearing age.
How can it be seen as fair and right that women have these agencies, amongst many others? Why does the EHRC not investigate why over 90% of the homeless are men, and why 4 times more men than women commit suicide? The EHRC spends a lion's share of their efforts and resources dealing with sexual harassment cases, instead of dealing with issues that impact men more, such as workplace injuries and deaths. Apparently, a pinch on the bum is worth more than a man's life. Women have several different choices in the world of work. Men have slightly different choices. Why doesn't the EHRC investigate all of these inequalities?
She said, but it's not fair because women have to make their mind up on what they're going to do. She said, I don't know whether I should stay at home, go to work, or do it 50-50. I've never felt I've had any choice in my, in good times or bad times. If things went bad, it was always my job to make sure the money came into the household, not my wife's. And being a man, I saw it that way as well.
At UCL, a London university, they say this. But why do they aim for an even balance of male and female students? The vast majority of women simply don't have the brains to do computer work. They certainly have intellect, just not technical intellect. And just as importantly, they don't have the desire to do technical work. It's that simple.
I'm going to put you in IT, because you said on your CV you have a lot of experience with computers.
I did say that on my CV, yes. I have a lot of experience with the whole computer thing, you know, emails, sending emails, receiving emails, deleting emails. I could go on.
Do.
You know this from all of your female friends and colleagues. Most women avoid technical matters like the plague.
Can you send someone to fix the printer? It's jammed. Thanks. Bye.
From hi-fi systems to computers to car trouble, if it's electronic or mechanical and it doesn't vibrate, women don't want to know. In the men's 100 metres, black men are the fastest in the world, and white men don't do anything like as well. For example, there were no white men in the 2008 Olympic final. Is this happening because white men are discriminated against in athletics? Are white sprinters oppressed? Or are certain black men simply faster than the rest? If we decide that not enough white men are winning races, what can we do about it? Do we limit the number of blacks that can compete? Do we offer special coaching and funding to white athletes only? Perhaps we should make black athletes wear rucksacks full of rocks. Of course you can't discriminate against black athletes in this way. That's racism, right? And here's where we meet the classic problem afflicting our society in the feminist age: the confusion between equality of opportunity and equality of outcome. In a 100 metres race, all you can do is ensure that everyone starts at the same time, at the same place, and covers the same distance. You cannot control who wins, unless you start fixing the results. And this is precisely what's happening in British education. Universities choose to see it as discrimination that women are not studying computer science. And in order to alleviate this perceived discrimination against women, they proceed to commit actual discrimination against men. Let's say a computer science course has 100 places. 200 men apply for the course, and 50 women. If a university like UCL aims to have equal numbers of men and women on the course, then you can see the inevitable result. 100% of the women may be accommodated, but only 25% of the men. This the university sees as equality. It would actually be fairer to all applicants if the course ended up with 80 men and 20 women. That's 40% each. But this the university sees as discrimination against women. By aiming to have equal numbers of women on courses that simply don't appeal to them and that they aren't any good at, you don't achieve equality. What you achieve instead is discrimination against men, lower educational standards to get these women on the courses in the first place, and a shortage of high-quality professional workers in those fields when women quit 5 years into their careers to have children.
I've seen my best friend in Parliament, who was a young woman in her 30s, extremely capable. She wasn't willing to basically never see her young children, and so she left Parliament at the age of 38.
Everybody loses except for a growing group of women with mediocre technical abilities. The same discrimination against men that's happening in education is also happening in wider society. One example, amongst thousands, is that women business entrepreneurs can receive special government grants to help them start their businesses.
Early in the decade, I felt I had to prove myself being a woman in business.
The British Chambers of Commerce say there's no reason why many more women shouldn't become successful entrepreneurs.
Yes, there is a reason. It's because women have to compete with men, and men are very difficult to compete with, even if you're another man. If you're a woman, you have next to no chance.
Given that kind of equality of opportunity, it doesn't follow that you're going to get completely identical equality of outcome. If it's the case that men are more competitive, they're more willing to sacrifice various other aspects of their life in order to get more money and status, and they're willing to take more risks, for example, take on more hazardous jobs and get paid more as a result. If that's the case, even if you have perfect equality of opportunity, you still wouldn't expect identity either in the kinds of jobs that men and women choose to do, or given that different jobs get paid different amounts, you wouldn't expect equality, complete identity in income either in terms of how much, how unpleasant the job is such that you get rewarded more, and how much energy you have to put into climbing the greasy pole. So for both those kinds of reasons, even with, you would expect men and women to come out slightly differently in the job market, even in the absence of any discrimination whatsoever. It doesn't mean there's no discrimination. The discrimination can kind of exaggerate that difference, but you can't use inequality of outcome as evidence that there's something wrong necessarily with the system.
So what stops women flying in business?
I think it is confidence. Really need to believe in yourself and to have that will to succeed. I think other things that are making things perhaps a bit easier. They're now introducing flexible working, for example, for women, and so there's a lot more support, I think, that's nurturing women to think more about running their own businesses.
Today, for every 10 male business owners, there are 4 women, so entrepreneurs have not yet achieved equality.
It's not acceptable to society that men are simply more inclined and more able to start new businesses, and that's why women entrepreneurs are scarce. We would rather believe that women are oppressed and need extra help from the British taxpayer to be able to compete on equal terms.